Next, we're going to take a look at a special kind of sequence. It's called an arithmetic sequence. It looks like the word arithmetic, but when we're talking about sequences, we say arithmetic. An arithmetic sequence is one with a common difference. So if you remember our first example yesterday, when we listed the terms of the sequence, you could add 5 to get the next term. That's a common difference for an arithmetic sequence. There's two types of formulas that we can use for an arithmetic sequence. The first is a bit easier to use and a bit easier to understand. It's called an explicit formula. What this allows you to do is find any term in the sequence that you want to. So again, reminding ourselves of what this notation means, a sub n is simply the nth term. One of the examples we looked at yesterday was finding the 11th term in the sequence, so that was a sub 11. A sub 1 is the first term. D is your common difference, and n is the number of the term you're looking for. So again, if you're looking for the 11th term, you would substitute 11 for n. The second formula is called a recursive formula, and it's actually a formula that we use quite a bit with sequences. It's just a little bit harder the way that it's notated to understand and follow. All it means is take the previous term and add the common difference. So when you've got your list, we had 2, 7, 12, 17, 22. To get the next term, you add 5. 22 plus 5 is 27. So that's using the recursive formula. If we look at the way that the recursive formula is set up, it's actually as two pieces. First of all, you need to know what the first term is so that you can use that term, add the common difference to find the next term. So again, let's take a look at this. A sub n is the nth term. So let's say we're looking for the second term. We would need to know the previous term or the first term, and then we would simply add the common difference to get the second term. And you would take the second term plus the common difference to get the third term, and so on. So that's a recursive formula. First, we're going to take a look at that explicit formula. We've got a sequence. We can tell what that common difference is. We're adding 4 to get the next term, and that is consistent. If it's not consistent, it's not an arithmetic sequence. So for the explicit formula, the nth term equals the first term plus n minus 1 times the common difference. So you can distribute that common difference and combine your like terms. So our explicit formula to find any term in the sequence that we want, we could substitute it into -2 plus 4n. And that's what we're asked to do on our next example, is find the 25th term. So both places you see that n, you're going to replace it with 25. So again, to get you used to this notation, a sub 25 simply means the 25th term, -2 plus 4 times 25. So multiplying, we get 4 times 25 is 100. So the 25th term in this sequence is 98. Next, we're going to take a look at the recursive formula, and we're going to give the first 5 terms. This formula you could use to find the 25th term, but you would have to find the first 24 terms first before you could find the 25th term. So that's why that explicit formula is nice for finding large numbers of terms. When you're just finding the first couple of terms, the recursive formula is actually fairly easy to use. Listing these out, we have our first term is given to us. We are told the first term is 3. I just realized I forgot to change the notation on this one. When I did sequences in series, I always used T for term, but the book that we're referencing uses A for some reason, so all of your assignments have that A notation. So I changed most of my examples to the A format, and apparently this one was left in our T format. So T sub 1 is term, A sub 1 is first term as well. Next, this, again, it looks complicated, but it's really straightforward. What this is telling us is take the previous term and subtract 5 from it to get your next term. So 3 minus 5 is -2, and continuing that, subtracting 5, I get -7, -12, and -17. So those are my first 5 terms. That's using the recursive formula. Again, just keep adding or subtracting that common difference to get the next term.